morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Huntington. I'm Karen Mazzata. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm today's worship associate. Thank you for joining us on Zoom, and a few of you who came in person on this snowy Sunday day. We're all glad you're here. If you're here for the first time, or the first time in a long time, you can exhale. You don't need a password. You don't need a firm set of beliefs. You can be sure, you can be unsure, you can be tired, and you can be curious. We're glad you're here. Unitarian Universalists are people of promise more than prescription. We're less interested in making everyone agree on the same words and more interested in practicing a faith with a backbone, dignity, compassion, truth, and repair. We draw wisdom from many sources, including the Black freedom struggle, because it teaches us what it costs to tell the truth and keep loving anyway. Today is Martin Luther King Sunday. Our theme is seeing what power hides. In a world that can get loud and confusing on purpose, we're practicing clarity, community, and a kind of courage that still makes room for tenderness. Today we have a few announcements. Tomorrow, as you know, is January 19th, Martin Luther King Day, with a few noteworthy events that deserve your attention. Abraham's Table with the Poor People's Campaign will be at the Suffolk Y JCC, hosting a day of volunteering for people without homes that culminates with a reflective service at 2 p.m. Huntington's Bethel AME Church and the NAACP will host a celebration event at 6 p.m. featuring keynote speaker Frederick Brewington, a well-known civil rights attorney. Next Sunday, January 25th, everyone is invited to a fun bingo afternoon following service, so we hope you join us. And please join the LGBTQIA+ committee as they host four online session series starting January 28th entitled Authentic Selves. If you're interested in learning more about Unitarian Universalism and our fellowship, please join us Sunday, February 1st for a newcomers orientation. And for more updates about the fellowship, please see our weekly flash newsletter, which is out on Thursdays, or go to our website at UUFH.org.
We come into worship the way that we come into life, not as solo projects, but as people who need each other. Some weeks the world feels clear. Some weeks it feels like fog. And in fog, the most important things are simple: a steady light, a shared path, and the decision not to leave each other behind.
We light this chalice, a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, as a small, steady refusal. A refusal to let cruelty become just how it is. A refusal to let people be reduced to labels. A refusal to be turned against our own conscience.
There's a person I think of when I think of that kind of refusal. His name was A.J. Must, a peacemaker and organizer. During the Vietnam era, he would sometimes stand alone outside the White House with a candle. And a reporter once asked him, "Do you really think that you're going to change the policies of this country by standing out there alone at night with a candle?" And Must answered softly, "Oh, I don't do this to change the country. I do this so that the country will not change me."
May this flame help us practice that kind of integrity. Not performative, not perfect, just real.
And because it's Martin Luther King Jr. Sunday, our first hymn that we're going to listen to is from the wellspring of Black hope and Black struggle. Lift every voice and sing. And it is sometimes called the Black national anthem. It carries history, pain, courage, and praise. If this song isn't part of your spiritual home, and for all of those of us who come from outside that tradition, we receive it as guests, as kin, with respect and gratitude, letting it teach our breath and shape our commitments.
Let us rise in body or spirit and sing together. Our opening hymn is 149, Lift Every Voice and Sing.
I want you all to imagine that I brought two things with me today, a flashlight and a ball of string. And I brought my flashlight and my ball of string for a reason today. Because sometimes the world gets confusing, and sometimes grown-ups use big fancy words to make unfair things sound normal. And sometimes we need help finding our way and finding something that will keep us tied to our values, towards the things that we really care about, towards where we want to be going. Sometimes the people who speak up get called trouble. And whether you're 8 or 80, that can make your stomach feel weird, I think, when it happens. So here's a story about what helps. I want you to imagine that there's a pop-up experience at the mall that everyone's been talking about, and everyone is really excited to go to it. And it's part escape room, part selfie museum. And there's a sign out front of it, and it says, "The Filter Maze. Mirrors, effects, mystery. See yourself like never before." So a bunch of kids rush in there together. They're excited. They've watched the videos about it. They've seen the ads. They heard their friends talking about it, and they think they know how it works. They think it's where they should be going. And right away, a fog machine turns on. Not silly fog, not fun fog, thick fog that you can almost taste and smell. Fog where you can't even see your own feet. And then the mirrors begin. One mirror makes you look huge. One mirror makes you look tiny. One stretches your face like a weird filter. One makes you look like you're about to fade out. At first, everyone laughs because this whole thing is so absurd, so different, so strange. But then the fog keeps coming, and now it's hard to find each other. It's hard to find the exit, to know where it even is, and after a while, you start doubting what you see. One kid says, "The exit is over there," and the other one says, "No, it's over there." And one kid whispers, "What if there is no exit, and this is just how the way things are? This is just how things are now." But then one kid in the group speaks up and says, "My auntie gave me an emergency kit for moments like this." And they pull out a ball of bright red string. But the problem is no one can find the exit, the door. No one can see anything. So they do something smart because they're able to stop themselves from panicking. They use their own bodies together. They shuffle their feet around until they can find something they recognize, something that's real. They know that's real. The rough rubber mat that they remember stepping over when they walked in. The cold metal post right next to it, the place where they know for sure, this is where we started, this is real. And so they tie one end of the string to it. And then they say, "Everybody hold on to the string. If you're scared, hold tighter. If you're not scared, hold the string anyway, so nobody gets lost alone." And then someone clicks on a flashlight. And of course, the fog does not vanish from the flashlight. The mirrors don't disappear. But one thing changes. Now they can see the next right step. And as they move, they do three things. They tell the truth out loud. That mirror is definitely lying. They keep a hand on the string, and they keep checking on each other. Are you with me? I'm with you. Step by step, slowly they find the exit, and they tumble back into regular daylight, laughing again. Not because the fog was harmless, but because they didn't face the fog alone, and they knew that if they ever had to do it again, that they wouldn't have to face it alone. So here's my question for all of us this morning. When life feels foggy, what helps you find your way? Maybe it's a small light. Maybe it's truth-telling. Maybe it's holding on to each other. So this week, try to practice all three. And today, let's explore a little bit more about how to practice all three. Because we remember that we need each other deeply to survive. And that is why we're here. So we take some time now this morning to reflect on the ways that we need each other to survive. What we bring to community, what we bring on our hearts to community, what we are carrying. For those of you who are on Zoom, you're invited, if you have a joy, a sorrow, a complex truth, something on your heart that you want to put into this space of community today, to type it in the chat so that you can share that with each other. And if for any of you who are here in this room today, if you want to write something down, we can read it aloud. I'm going to read aloud the text from the chat too, and if any of you have something that you want us to share, we'll do it. This is a practice that we have here of caring for one another and witnessing each other's lives and being there for each other. I invite you now, all of us. I can't access the Zoom chat right now. I'm having connectivity issues here, so I'm going to let the witnessing that's happening in the space that you're all online together be the witnessing of your moments, of the heart, of your joys and sorrows today. But for all that we are carrying, I want to take a moment for us to just be together. You might want to start this moment not with a breath, but with a scream. And those of you who are by yourselves at home can take advantage of that. And for those of you who are here in the sanctuary, feel what you need to feel and be what you need to be this morning. But know that you're here together in community. Those of you here in this room, those of you online, you're part of this community. So with all that we bring into this space of community, let's just take a breath together this morning. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel yourself sitting wherever you are, in a chair, on the couch, in the bed. Maybe even let your shoulders drop just a fraction. Let your jaw unclench if it will. Some of us are carrying love that feels full today. Some of us are carrying grief that feels heavy. Some of us are carrying fear or anger that's been sitting in the body all week or longer. Some of us are simply tired and trying to stay decent in a time that keeps testing what normal means. Whatever you brought in here today, you don't have to carry it alone. Know that you are not alone. And there are others whose hearts beat and yearn for the same, more beautiful and more loving world that you do. For all that we carry on our hearts, for the better world our hearts know is possible, we receive now this hymn, our hymn, Spirit of Life. Before the sermon, we will hear a companion voice to Dr. King's. James Baldwin was a black writer and witness for King's era who told the truth with a poet's precision and a prophet's nerve. In 1963, in the thick of the civil rights struggle, he wrote a letter to his teenage nephew as a way of saying, "Don't let this country reduce you to its labels. Don't let the fog steal your sense of reality. Don't let fear edit your heart into something smaller." We'll hear a short adaptation of that letter now. Listen for what Baldwin insists on: clarity without hatred, love without denial. It will lead us straight towards Dr. King. My dear child, you were born into a story already in motion, and there will be people who try to tell you who you are before you've had the chance to learn your own name. They will do it with respectable words. They will do it with common sense. They will do it by acting as if what harms you is simply how it is. They may tell you to be patient, to wait, to stop making trouble. And you will learn what that really means. Be quiet, so we do not have to change. Baldwin wrote something that is both hard and clarifying. They are trapped in a history which they do not understand, and until they understand it, they cannot be released from it. So when reality begins to shift, some will panic. Losing their story can feel like losing themselves. Baldwin reaches for an image. Try to imagine how you would feel if you woke up one morning to find the sun shivering and all the stars aflame. Any upheaval in the universe is terrifying when you've mistaken the old order for the order of nature. So they will try to make you doubt what you know. They will try to fog your eyes. They will try to rename grief as agitation, protest as threat, and cruelty as just how things work. Here's what you must not surrender: your sense of reality and your capacity for love.
Baldwin doesn't romanticize the cost. He tells the truth. To act is to be committed, and to be committed is to be in danger. So I won't promise you comfort as a reward for honesty, but I will promise you this: you do not have to do it alone. Find the ones who tell the truth plainly, the ones who won't let people disappear behind labels. Hold on to them. Let them hold on to you. Keep your light on. Keep your hand on the string. Love is not pretending. Love is truth with a backbone. Love is repair again and again in an imperfect world.
This is your home, my friend. Do not be driven from it, and we will not be driven from each other either. I am sad that we didn't get to hear the choir sing that song today, so maybe we will hear it another time. I think we shall have to. But that was What's Going On. That was Dylan's rendition of What's Going On, not the choir's. Yes. And it is, I actually didn't pick that piece ahead of time, but it was the perfect piece for today. What's going on? It's a prayer and a protest and a question that won't stop asking itself. As in, what's going on? As in, what is actually happening to us, to our neighbors, to the country that we are trying to raise children in and grow old in and just stay decent in? So I want to point out one word that has been stuck in my ears all week, because I keep hearing it and I keep reading it, and it's agitators. It's one of those words that pretends to be descriptive, but it's doing something else. It's doing maybe magic, maybe distortion. Because if you call a crowd of people agitators, you do not have to call them neighbors. You do not have to call them mourners. You do not have to call them people with reasons for speaking up. You can skip the grief and jump straight to those people are the problem. It's an old trick. And on this day when we honor Dr. King, I'm reminded that he heard it constantly. Outside agitators, troublemakers, these were words used to describe him and the groups of people that he was with. Extremists. Translation, people who refuse to quietly accept an arrangement that is hurting somebody. And it fits perfectly, too, I think, with the story that we heard earlier. It's funny for 10 seconds until you can't find the exit and you start doubting your own eyes. That's when the danger starts. Not that you're scared, but that you start treating the fog like normal weather, like the climate. So let me say this simply. I think one of the biggest fights, and I always hesitate to use that word, but it feels, I'm going to use that word today on purpose. One of the biggest fights right now is over reality itself. Who gets described as a person? Who gets described as a problem? Who gets the benefit of the doubt and who gets the label? Who gets to be complicated and who gets pushed out of the story? We're living in a time when power keeps trying to win by making us dizzy. And if you felt that dizziness, you're not imagining it. And because I love you, and I want us to stay human, I'm going to give us about 60 seconds of air now before we go deeper with the weather. So, we're going to have for us today, morning, unpredictable weather morning, we're going to have our forecast. Good morning, and welcome to the fog forecast. Tonight, dense fog across the entire moral landscape with a 90% chance of that's not what happened and you're being dramatic by dinner. Visibility expected to be low, especially near any conversation involving race, history, accountability, or money. We have an agitator advisory in effect, translation, people who refuse to be silent while something cruel was being called necessary. I see that a passive voice warning is also active. Headlines will include an incident occurred and shots were fired. If you see any verbs, do not approach, they've been taken into custody. And now for sports. Cruelty continues its winning streak, but local teams of neighbors checking in on neighbors are mounting a quiet comeback. And a breaking news alert from the Department of Respectability. Please remain calm. Please do not practice anything too intensely. Please file your conscience in triplicate. That's your forecast. If you're having trouble seeing clearly, it could be the fog, it could be the tear gas. Either way, officials recommend not noticing. Okay, back to Dr. King. Because King didn't only live in hard times too. He lived in fog that was created on purpose. He lived in a country where power insisted it was protecting order while it enforced a cruel order. And I want you to take a moment to bring you back to a time in his life that was almost physical, I think when I hear this time, it feels so real to me that I feel like I'm there, and maybe you remember this. You probably remember this story from hearing it when it happened. It was January 1956, Montgomery, Alabama. King is 27 years old. The bus boycott is underway, and threats coming into him are constant, never ending. One night while he's away at a meeting, a bomb is thrown onto the porch of his home. His wife is there, his baby daughter is there. Glass breaks, wood splinters. Neighbors come running out into the dark, coats half buttoned, slippers on cold pavement. The crowd forms fast, fear and fury mix together, and some people show up with guns. People are ready to protect King and his family by meeting terror with terror. And so he rushes home and he stands in front of that crowd. And as someone who I can't imagine that happening to my family at my home, I can't imagine doing this. Because this is the moment where movements can turn into something else. If you retaliate, power wins twice. It gets to hurt you and it gets to define you. So King goes home and he does something that feels impossible to me. He pleads with them to put their weapons away. He insists on nonviolence. Not because he's naive about evil, but because he knows what violence does to the human spirit. And he knows how quickly hatred can recruit even the best of us. Standing in front of that wreckage on his porch, he refuses to let terror turn him into what terror wants to turn him into. And it connects directly to what we heard about A.J. Must in the beginning. That line that says, "I don't do this to change the country. I do this so the country will not change me." And King was doing the same thing. You can attack my home, but you will not take my soul. You will not write the story of who we become. And he keeps trying. So zoom forward a little bit now to 1963, and you might know this story too of when he's in the Birmingham jail. And a group of white clergy tells him politely to slow down, to stop creating tension. In other words, please stop making the truth so hard to ignore. And King writes back to them and says to them basically that waiting is not neutral when people are being harmed. And that order is the favorite word of people who want peace without justice. Peace without justice. If you're hearing echoes of our own time, you're not wrong. Here we are again, people being told to be quiet, and anyone who refuses quiet being labeled as trouble. We're hearing threats about using the Insurrection Act. We're watching the classic move that power uses: whip up fear, point to the chaos, then claim that we need extraordinary power to restore calm. I'm not naming this to turn this moment into a news segment. I'm naming it because you can't do spiritual life with your eyes closed and call it integrity. So what does King give us behind nonviolent inspiration? And this morning I say he gives us discipline. He shows us what it looks like to keep your soul from being captured. In later years, he refuses to let the struggle be reduced to manners. He names the triple evils of racism, militarism, and materialism, as in the lie that some people are less human, the habit of solving problems with force and calling it safety, the worship of profit even when it eats communities alive. And he reminds us that those three things braid together. They feed each other. And you can see that braid right now today if you look without flinching. This is why I read Baldwin alongside King this morning, not as a pairing, but as a survival guide. Baldwin refuses soft love. He insists on love with a backbone, the kind that says, I will not let you rename me. I will not let you make me smaller. I will not let you drive me out of my own humanity. That's what we're practicing today. Humanity that cannot be bullied out of us. Because here's the real situation that many of us are in. You have a job, you have a life, you have a body that needs care. You have people you love. You have a calendar that does not pause for the moral crisis of the week. So the question becomes, how do we stay awake without burning out? How do we stay clear without turning brittle? Some of what's cracking in our country is about politics. And much of what's cracking, I think, is about an old story. An old story that is no longer holding up. About who deserves safety, who gets listened to, and who gets treated as expendable. A story that's as old as this country, a story built on domination. And a story built on domination cannot last forever, not without more and more violence to sustain it. So what does a moral community do when an old story is dying? There are a lot of indigenous activists who talk about this, as in the story of our colonial country breaking, that can no longer be held anymore, that's showing its awful roots. And they talk about the response to this is hospice work. In hospice work, you sit. You sit with the truth. You tell the truth even when the truth is, I don't know what happens next. And you accompany what is ending to reduce harm and make room for what might be born next. If you want a religious word for that, you might call it repair of the world. Not fixing it alone, not leaving it, but not saving it by Tuesday either. Repair as a practice, as a long game, as something that we do together, as something that we invest in. Which brings us back to the kids in the story that we heard earlier. I think that story, those kids gave us the map. String, flashlight, next step. Here's the sermon in 3 sentences. Hold on to each other. Tell the truth out loud. Keep your light on. Hold on to each other, because authoritarianism, I can never say that word. I'm just going to say fascism loves isolation. Beloved community is not a nice idea because of that. It's how we survive and how we resist. It's the text that you send to someone that says, I'm coming with you. The check-in call, the ride, the meal, the showing up, and doing it over and over again. Not glamorous, but repeatable and essential. So hold on to each other. Tell the truth out loud, not as a performance, but as an anchor. When you hear a label used to make people disappear, name it. When you feel the fog creeping into your own nervous system, name it. Sometimes the best sentence you can say in public is, no, that's not normal, that's not okay, that's not who we're going to be. Keep your light on. Not because you think one light solves everything, but because lights spread. One person telling the truth gives another person permission. One person refusing cruelty keeps a whole room from sliding into it. This is King's discipline made practical in real life, in small moments that are repeatable. Discipline is what you do when you don't get to feel inspired first, but you just do it because you know it's right. Discipline is what you do when you can't fix everything, but you can still protect something. One final scene that I just want to leave us with today. and then I'm going to stop talking. Imagine it's a random weekday. You're running errands. You're trying to get through. You're at the market, and you hear someone scapegoating a group of people. In that casual way cruelty likes to travel. As a joke, as a sigh, well, you know how they are. The fog offers you two easy options, laugh along or shut down. But there's a third option. It's small, but it's light. You say calmly, I don't see it that way. Or, that's a human being you're talking about. Or even, no, not that. You don't have to win the whole argument in the frozen food aisle. You just have to keep the country from changing you. That's the start of repair work. That's how we keep our souls collectively from getting edited down. And it makes a difference over time, because the long arc is made of short moves, repeated. So here we are on MLK Sunday in a time that is asking us to forget, to numb, to accept, to surrender reality. And King from that broken porch keeps saying, don't let terror recruit you. And Baldwin from that letter keeps saying, don't let the lie rename you. And our kids in the maze keep saying, nobody gets lost alone. So let's hear this song. The song that we need to sing next, not as a children's song, as a strategy, as a promise. This little light of mine, not to show off, not to pretend the fog isn't real, but to help somebody else see the next right step, to help us find each other in the fog, to help us keep shining until the fog lifts, or until there are so many bright lights that the fog doesn't matter anymore. We come now to the offering. This is one of the ways we practice what we've been talking about today, turning love into something real. We keep the work of this fellowship going, and each month we also split the plate with a partner doing justice work beyond our walls. Our split the plate partner for January is Rural and Migrant Ministry. They organize with farm workers and rural communities across New York for dignity and justice, including support for migrant families, worker rights, accompaniment through systems that are designed to grind them down. We hope you can give generously, particularly on this snowy day when many of us are at home. Please go online to UUFH.org and donate to this wonderful organization. The online giving tab
We'll send you to the place to do that, or send a check to the fellowship. We really appreciate your generosity.
Friends, may the light you carry with you be stubborn. May your love grow a backbone. May you keep your hand on the string, especially when the fog gets thick. May you tell the truth plainly without letting it harden you. May you make one step of repair and then another. May you remember that courage is rarely loud, but it is contagious. And when you wonder whether anything you do matters, may you hear this answer in your bones. We do not do this only to change the country. We do this so the country will not change us. And so, in the name of love, we go.